Hey everyone, Airball here, and we're continuing our tour of Alchemy today with another Esper deck. The last time I saw you, we were playing Esper Control in day 2 of the Arena Open. But today we're taking on one of the more interestingly positioned creature decks in the format. So this is a creature deck that can come out of the gate early and beat down, but it also has an interesting amount of resilience and ability to hang with the control decks, which are starting to take over after the Arena Open. So the meta is starting to consolidate around Esper Control and Izzet Control, and the only other creature decks really that I've seen in the format playing on the ladder the last few days have been dragons, but it's mostly a control format. So if you want to play creatures, then you need to have something that can hit hard and fast to get under the control decks, but also have a realistic backup plans if you can't kill them in the first few turns of the game. And that's what this deck attempts to do. So we have the main plan is to hit with these heavy hitter cards. We have 2 copies of Voice of the Blessed, 2 mana 2/2, basically an Ajani's Pridemate ++. So it's an Ajani's Pridemate that gets a counter every time you gain life. If it ever gets to the point where it has +1, 4 +1/+1 counters, it gets Flying and Vigilance, which is pretty relevant against ground threats, lobster, that kind of thing. And it's also indestructible if you get it to the point where it's got 10 +1/+1 counters on it, which is pretty sweet. Also have 3 copies of Clerics of Life's Bond, which is another Ajani's Pridemate kind of effect. Whenever you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on the cleric, and it enables itself so that whenever you have another cleric come onto the battlefield, then you gain life. So every time you play a cleric, this grows by 1, effectively. And so those are payoffs for like gaining life per instance. Then we also have Righteous Valkyrie, which is a card that we know and love from Standard. It actually has seen some play, unlike the other 2. If you ever get to 27 life, effectively, then you get a double Anthem effect on your creatures. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So if you play one Righteous Valkyrie into another, and you've already gained some life at some point earlier in the game, you can hit with this pretty heavily as early as turn 4, which is pretty sweet. So this is like the core heavy hitter, power forward part of the deck. We also have a bunch of enablers as well. So we have 4 1-drops in the form of Lunar Veteran, which is like your Soul Warden kind of effect. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, under your control, you gain a life, which is pretty sweet. We have 2 copies of Angel of Unity, which actually pays off the party mechanic. It's a new Alchemy card. Whenever it enters the battlefield or you cast a party spell, which all the spells in our deck are, it pumps a card in your hand perpetually, +1/+1. 2 copies of Skyclave Cleric, which is just like an innovation in the mana base, protects you from flooding out a little bit because you'll always have a cleric to play. It gains 2 life on its own, but also can just be played as a land if you need it to be. 2 copies of Vanishing Verse, which is probably about the right number. It doesn't hit all that much in the format anymore, but it's when this deck really does want cheap, efficient ways to get things out of your way. So if you need to get rid of a Leer for a turn or a Lobster for a turn, this can be your guy. 3 copies of Apollo. Not much to say about him. He's just an enabling card that takes away your opponent's board wipes before they can cast them, and hopefully you kill them in time. 2 copies of Skyclave Apparition for the creature deck matchups. 4 copies of Glasspool Mimic, which I'll get to in a second, but it's the main reason to be playing blue in the deck because of its combination with Inquisitor Captain. So then we also have this pile, which is the stuff that gives the deck resilience. So obviously we have the manlands, enabling you to continue to attack if the opponent wipes the board. It's immune to being bounced by Lobster, that kind of stuff. 2 copies of Pyro of Heroes, which is not so difficult to interact with anymore now that people are packing main deck of Braids. So I'm interested to see how it's going to do. But it's basically this pod effect. So if you ever get one of these 3-drop creatures into play, you can sacrifice them for 2 mana and search your deck for Inquisitor Captain, which is the next card that gives us a ton of resilience. So suppose your opponent wipes your board and it's your turn 4. They've wiped the board on turn 4, it's your go. You get to play this Inquisitor Captain, which is one of the more powerful cards in the new Alchemy set. When it enters the battlefield, you get a Coco effect, kind of. You get to seek 2 creature cards to your hand with mana value 3 or less and put the one into play for free that you like the most. And the other goes back into the library. So this is a pretty powerful effect. It also has Vigilance for whatever that's worth. This is a pretty good way to rebuild the board after the opponent has dealt with your first thrust. And it's not legendary, and it also, as I said earlier, interacts well with Glasspool Mimic. So Inquisitor Captain can not only hit any 3-drop creature or less in the deck, which can be good just if you want to hit the opponent's hand with Spellbinder, or if you want to hit Apparition and hit the opponent's creature. But it also hits Glasspool Mimic, which can come into the battlefield and copy the Inquisitor Captain, and you get to run it back again. That's pretty sweet. So if you hit that once or even twice in a row, then you have a pretty formidable battlefield for just 4 mana cost, which is pretty great. We also have Oprah, 4 mana for a 3/3 lifelink, and whenever a cleric dies, including itself, you get to fetch one back from the graveyard and put it on the battlefield if it has less CMC than the one that died. So this can be like surprisingly difficult to deal with if it's resolved. If the opponent doesn't deal with it on the stack, then there's not a whole lot of exile in the format beyond Vanishing Verse, which doesn't hit this. So it can kind of put the opponent in a tough spot. And we also have one more way to recur stuff from the battlefield, which is Drana. Just return a creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield whenever it attacks. It's a one-of hit if you need to sacrifice your Inquisitor Captain or your Oprah to fetch Drana with your Pyre of Heroes. Not a super important part of the deck, but an interesting, one more interesting way to rebuild a battlefield. Mana base, as you can see, we don't give up all that much for playing blue. The only lands that come into play tapped are the 2 copies of Forsaken Crossroads and the 2 copies of Shipwreck Marsh. Everything else is on color for the main Orzhov core of the deck, so you don't have to play the blue if you don't want to. And the Glasspool Mimic itself, of course, provides blue as well. So the main reason we have blue isn't just for the Glasspool Mimic, it's also that it gives us more resilience to control decks in the format from the sideboard. We have a lot of tech against control on this sideboard. 2 copies Disdainful Stroke, which deals with Key to the Archive, deals with dragons. 2 copies of Negate, good against, just general non-creature spells. 4 copies of Test of Talents, which is a nod to the Izzet decks of the format with their Galvanic iterations. And basically stuff that you never want to see again once they cast it. This card can be an absolute beating against control. It's cheap to hold up. 2 copies of Valorous Stance, also good in the anti-control matchup. It can provide your creatures indestructible, so it dodges board wipes, and it's also an important way to deal with Hullbreaker Horror for a turn. The opponent can't really deal with it super effectively without bouncing their own horror, which hopefully gives you the time that you need to force through the last few points of damage. So, that's the deck tech. I don't know how... This deck obviously feasts on creatures. It just takes over the battlefield and goes bigger than anything else can, but I don't know how it's going to do against the control decks of the format. So let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, on the draw with a pretty land-heavy hand, I think the play here is going to be to try to scry with this Forsaken Crossroads and hit an enabler for the Cleric of Life's Bond. 5 lands is a lot, but hopefully these 2 cards are heavy enough hitters that we can get there. And opponent's mulliganed as well. Yeah, so Shadow Skull tapped, so we are probably up against Izzet. It's a pretty good scry to get to the bottom. So now we have Cleric into Captain into Mimic if the opponent can't interact. Oh, so it's Izzet Dragons. Okay, so Izzet Dragons I think we feel a lot better about. Obviously we don't have a great way to deal with their turn 3 threat, which could be the Townraiser Tyrant. But I think we're comfortable now just getting this Cleric in play. And we might even copy it with the Glasspool Mimic, depending. Moonveil Regent. One of the less threatening plays that they could make, I think. Okay, so we can either play Pyre of Heroes, which can't act right away, or we can play Cleric of Life's Bond. I don't know that we're going to hold the mana open for this, so I think I'd rather just dump as much on the battlefield as I possibly can. We'll play this on white and say go. Opponent's going to be decent to pressuring our life total, unfortunately, so our Righteous Valkyries will probably have to play at least a little bit of defense first. But we are pretty glad that we didn't see Fearsome Whelp on turn 2. We'll see what they do. If they hold up, like... Yeah, so now that we know they have the Goldspan Dragon, we'll see if they hold up Divide by 0. If they attack out, then it'll be interesting. We'll have to do some math to see how much life we can gain. If they, like, play Goldspan Dragon, attack into Dragon's Fire, kill one of our Clerics, then that obviously changes things a fair bit. They keep their cards in hand. They attack out, which is pretty aggressive. Makes me think that they do have a removal spell. Okay, so there's really not much for it here besides playing Inquisitor Captain. We don't have to make the decision about whether to attack yet. I will get this blue in play now, I think. And we'll see. So they have a stick here. Removal seems likely. Okay, maybe not. Well, I guess they can afford to let it go to 4. They do have the dragons, after all. Those are not great hits, frankly. It's probably Lunarch Veteran, because we're probably going to put a bunch of creatures into play next turn, as opposed to the Skyclave Cleric, which gains us more life in the meantime. How much damage can they get through next turn? Suppose they play the Inferno, we take 14. If they have another land... 6. We could take 15 exactly. Maybe to play around that, we are supposed to play this. And then we can play Inquisitor Captain next turn and hopefully hit more life gain effects off of that. Fading Hope is not ideal. I guess I was supposed to play the Lunarch Veteran. Because we would have gained enough life to get out of the Inferno range anyway. They do discard their hand. So this is one random card in hand. Scry's bottom. Okay. Yeah, this makes sense. They know they lose the long game here. So down to 11. It's a little... So the play here is probably Cleric into Glasspool Mimic copying Captain. It's just the thing that gains the most life and puts the most beef on the board. Again, this is a random card, but it's one that they chose not to play on their turn, so it's probably not a dragon. Yeah, which makes this make a lot of sense. Okay. And we're taking 4, 8 next turn. There's really nothing for it now but to play this, and if you drew another kill spell off the top, then you're just a better Magic player than I am. Okay, so we did it. Is there any argument for putting this into play instead? I don't think so, so I don't think it matters. Okay, here I think this is just clearly... Yeah, this one can fly. And hopefully they can't kill us from 14 this turn. Okay, so this is 12. It feels like they can't get there. I don't think that these decks are running burn. Yeah. They pitch Teachings and Fading Hope. Okay. I think you are dead. I can't imagine. They can sacrifice the orb and try to hit a 3 CMC or less dragon, which I guess is the whelp. But even that I don't think saves them. Galazeth is, yeah, unplayable. Alright, so how much damage is this? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16? Yeah, very, very dead. Cool. Okay, so that went well. This deck does have a sideboard guide on CFB Pro. Encourage you guys to check that out. Um, let's see. What does it say to do against dragons? Yeah, so obviously, like I said in the deck tech, Disdainful Stroke seems pretty good against them. Vanishing Verse, pretty good against mono red. Not as good against the Izzet Dragon that we saw, but at least can deal with the Fearsome Whelp, which is going to be pretty important. 2 copies of Infernal Grasp, 2 copies of Valorous Stance, all of that makes a whole lot of sense. Out comes 2 copies of Pyre of Heroes. Out comes 1 Drana, which did seem like a little extra spice that we don't need against them. 2 copies of Oprah, because they're not... I guess because they're not really killing a whole lot of our stuff. All of our stuff is on the ground for the most part, and if we get to the point where our stuff is big enough in the air that they have to kill it to deal with it, then we're probably already winning. So I guess that makes some sense. Out comes 2 Skyclaves, and interestingly, we board out a land as well. I guess because we've brought our curve down significantly now that we've taken out Oprah and Drana, and we don't have the mana sink anymore in the Pyre of Heroes, I guess it makes sense to go down on 1 land. Cool. Okay, so opponent kept... Our hand is slow, but we do have double Righteous Valkyrie, which is one of our main ways to interact with them. We have Vanishing Verse to kill a thing. On the draw, obviously, it's a little too slow to deal with their Fearsome Whelp, but I think we're okay keeping this. Another Inquisitor Captain? Okay. It's going to be a slugfest, everyone. So I'm already pretty sure I want to play this on white, which is why I'm playing the Shipwreck Marsh first. I want to reserve the ability to decide which color I play the Brightclimb Pathway on. Yeah, they do have it. So that's scary. Oops. So we're definitely Vanishing Versing something. The question is what? There's no sense doing anything now, I don't think, because any counterspell that they play, we would rather they play on the Vanishing Verse than the Valkyrie or the Inquisitor Captain. Townraiser Tyrant. Yeah. Okay. So how do we feel about that? Given that we have 2 Vanishing Verses, we're probably trying to just kill whatever the Fearsome Whelp discounts and make them dump their mana into it. So let's just do that now. And I think next turn I'm going to pay the 2 and just get the Valkyrie in play. We can't really afford to sacrifice lands here. I will not sacrifice it. Stroke. Yeah. I mean, we're not holding that up. And probably we want... Given that we know we're going to sacrifice this black source, we definitely want this on black. And hopefully they don't have a removal spell for the Valkyrie. Could definitely see, like, Dragon's Fire. Yeah, this is going to be tough. Maybe we just need to outgain the pings here. Yeah, we'll pay twice. It hurts. It's a pretty good hand they have against us. But I think we can probably beat it. Sucks that we didn't draw the land to be able to Vanishing Verse plus hold up Stroke or play Captain. But we are gaining a bunch of land, and I think that they probably would have removed the Valkyries if they could. Another Whelp is whatever. Brittle Blast. Yeah. That makes some sense. Land? It's not land, then I guess that's the next best thing. But I think that is going to be too little too late, unfortunately. Oh, and that also cost our white, so we can't even Vanishing Verse anything anymore. Yeah, okay, so we hope that they play something into our Stroke that isn't an Inferno. Yeah, okay, so that just did not go our way. Needed to hit land number 4. Needed to deal with their fearsome whelp. Couldn't do any of the above. So I suppose we still have some... No, we don't even have outs anymore because we can't take the damage from these lands. So just stumbled a bit on mana there, and double Townraiser Tyrant on the play when your opponent's stumbling on mana turns out to be pretty good. But I still feel pretty okay going into game 3 on the play. What do you think? Can we draw land? If we do, it's pretty good. We don't have the blue to hold up Disdainful Stroke, unfortunately. But Valorous Stance doubles as a removal spell against any big dragon that they play. Spellbinder can take away their dragons as well. Alright, need to draw land. We boarded one out. The Orb, you say? How do you feel about the Orb? Their deck gets so much worse if they don't have an accelerant of some kind, and we already have another removal spell in hand. I think I'm fine killing that now. It also represents another dragon down the line. Can't draw land. I don't know what this tap means. Another orb. Okay. So they have the whelp as well. Sick. Okay. I think the whelp is more threatening than the orb, probably. Okay, found the land. So do we want the Valkyrie or do we want the Spellbinder? It's probably the Spellbinder, realistically. We get a good look at their hand. We know the best way to deploy Stroke. It gains us less life overall. But actually, playing the Spellbinder after the Valkyrie only gains us 1 life anyway. So I think it's the Spellbinder here. And what do we have? We have Board Wipe. Double Fading Hope and Fearsome Whelp. Okay, we're going to take the Board Wipe. It's also a Board Wipe that dodges Stroke, importantly. So the Fading Hopes plus the Board Wipe are going to make our Valorous Stance inconvenient. However, the Valkyrie does play above that Stroke pretty well. Or that current pretty well. Now the lands are coming. We play the Valkyrie, it just gets Fading Hoped. That Whelp is annoying. Okay. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to attack. If they block with the Whelp, then we can just let this happen, I guess, because we know our board is going to get wiped anyway. And the Valkyrie gives them a way to deploy their Fading Hope in a way that I'm not really happy with. It also lets them scry, so probably the play here is just hold up Valorous Stance Stroke. It's possible I'm supposed to be more aggressive, but we know that they're going to crack this orb, and we know that they're probably going to hit a dragon, so Stroke is live, and tapping out for that seems foolish. Yeah, so that's one that I think I'm happy to Stroke. Yeah. Okay, we'll play this on black. Voice of the Blessed. Is it better than a random card? I think so. They play the Goldspan Dragon, presumably attack double Fading Hope. That hurts. We'll make them make their decision before we deploy our threats. Yep. Mm-hmm. So we have some options. We can kill the um, dragon, play Valkyrie, which plays around this board wipe pretty effectively. Um, and then the following turn we can Lunar Veteran plus Voice, which is pretty sweet. I think I like that the most. And now they're going off the top. I didn't see whether they scryed top or bottom. That's a pretty good one. That's also really good. Okay, so what's the play? If we Voice plus Valkyrie, we gain 6 life, which puts us up to 24, which is not enough to box with the Regent yet. The Lunarch Veteran plus the Voice has the appeal of getting the Voice up over the Conductive Current damage, which no other play does. It does mean that we don't get the second Righteous Valkyrie in play yet, but that's not necessarily so bad, because it means it can come to them as a surprise. Oh, never mind. We don't have enough white to do that. Okay. Well, they probably still don't want to cast the Conductive Current to just get rid of the Veteran. And if they do, it comes back from the graveyard. That's kind of gross. Oprah. So these won't die because of the Brittle Blast. They'll get exiled instead. So it's not as good as it seems. Voice will grow to a 4/4 if we play it. Yeah, Voice just represents way more power. And it dodges this board wipe, which is the most important thing. As much as I wanted to play Oprah there, I think this was the right play. Now, obviously, they could draw, like, Dragon's Fire, kill Voice, draw a card. Put a stop on upkeep in case I want to animate the Hive, although I'm not even sure I can do that at this point. I can. Den. So say we animate the Hive, swing out. Is that anywhere close to good enough? No, it's not. If we pay the 2, if we don't pay the 2 and we play Oprah, then we gain 3 up to 27. 4. Yeah, and then we get this double Anthem effect, which protects us from the board wipe. So I think we let it go. That's also pretty good. And we can we can attack with the Righteous Valkyrie, but then they double block, so I think we're fine just attacking with the Voice. Are we playing this as a land? Probably, right? To enable the Hive to attack, or we just win. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so that was honestly said more about the Dragons deck than it said about ours. Like, if they had the acceleration available on turn 2, then the game went very well for them. If they didn't, then it didn't. And Fearsome Whelp was unanswerable in game 2 because we were on the draw, but on the play we had multiple copies of Vanishing Verse to deal with the Orb and the Whelp. And they had 3 copies too as well. So okay, on to the next one. On the draw, I think we can actually keep this. The Skyclave Cleric coming in the clutch here, making this hand keepable where it otherwise would not have been. Having to play, like, the combination of Voice plus Cleric is unfortunate. But you have to imagine that on the draw, we'll draw the 1 land that we need for the hand to be functional. Lair of the Hydra is encouraging. Ooh, Glasspool Mimic. So we don't want to play that on 1 because it doesn't cast either the Voice or the Cleric of Life's Bond. So we're definitely starting with this. The question is, are we going to be forced to play that as a land or not? Because we would very much like to keep that with Inquisitor Captain. So on the draw against Werewolf Pack Leader, I feel like we are very likely staring down the barrel of a removal spell. I think we're just playing this, though, because this thing grows faster than the Cleric of Lightspawn does. Alright, so there's a lot of pressure. We would love a land here. If we don't get to do anything this turn, then we're pretty sad. Found it. Okay. So now the question is, which do we play? We can play Paulo to try to take away a removal spell. We can play Righteous Valkyrie to try to gum up the board. Gain as much life as possible. The question is, how likely do you think it is that they have a removal spell? I think it's fairly likely. If they have 2 removal spells, what does our next turn look like? It looks like Inquisitor Captain. With Inquisitor Captain, the highest upside play is the Valkyrie. But Paulo also trades with these. I think I'm fine doing this. Snakeskin Veil, Rahilda, another Stormseeker, and a Magda. So Snakeskin Veil we don't really care about. Rahilda getting hasted up is not so bad, but the problem is they can play Rahilda hasted up, have Snakeskin Veil available. So I think it is Rahilda here. They can play it anyway, but they won't have Snakeskin Veil anymore. Which I guess doesn't actually matter because of the first strike. That was probably a bad take. Playing Magda is interesting. I'm thrilled to trade if they attack. Block this. We can't block the pack leader. They'll Snakeskin Veil it. And probably the next play is going to be, if we draw untapped land, it'll be Inquisitor Captain. If we don't draw untapped land, then it'll be Glasspool Mimic, play the Righteous Valkyrie. Right? Yeah. Let's try to stay alive. And then Inquisitor Captain's going to have to do its thing. Okay. We'll see how they attack, I guess. The tap land's nice to see. So they probably double pump one of the... No, they pump a pack leader and they pump Tovolar. No, they double pump pack leader. Okay. Okay, so they're afraid. So this gives us the option of just trading the Cleric. That seems nuts, though. Yeah, no blocks. Okay. Ooh, Skyclave Apparition? And what do you take? We can take Tovolar or we can take Pack Leader. I think those are the only 2 things that make much sense. It's probably Tovolar. And now I think the Cleric has done its job. I will throw it under any bus, given that we have another Inquisitor Captain coming into play next turn. We're trading off everything possible except the Valkyrie here, I think. I guess there's no reason for me to hold priority. Yeah, what do you take? It's probably, I would say probably the blue. So they haste up the Tyrant, get in for 4 in the air. We're not blocking that. They... pump the pack leader as well? Okay. draw. So even in the event of Snakeskin Veil, yeah, Snakeskin Veil is lethal here, so we have to block with something, and as long as we're going to block with something, it should probably be this. Because if we draw a Glasspool Mimic, then we want to have the captain in play, right? You can also block with the captain. I think I'm down to do that, actually. We always have the option of blocking with this once it grows. I will decline. Yeah. Angel of Unity, okay. So, yeah, nothing for it here but to play another captain. Okay. I will play another one. I will play another one. That's a pretty good turn. What do you guys think? Yeah. No attacks. So that's, I think, all 3 Glasspool Mimics. Are there any left in the deck? No, there's 1 left. We do play the full play set of 4. It have to be aware that this has reach when we're doing our lethal calculations. I will probably screw that up. What do you do? We probably take 2 here, realistically. Like, Arlen is probably pretty good. But I still think I want my mana to deploy these clerics. Our stuff just outgrows theirs. I don't know how they get through. They can try to pump the pack leader up really big and give it trample. Flashing in a creature doesn't really seem that great. As long as we keep it from becoming night, which should not be a problem. Which one of these is going to get sacked? This one? Okay. Yeah, so we definitely don't want to sacrifice that because it'll block the Voice of the Blessed in our hand. Am I willing to trade a Valkyrie for this Townraiser Tyrant? No, right? Because each one of these... Yeah, no. Like, just these 2 things alone will pay for this damage. But maybe next turn I'm willing to do it. Depends on what we draw. Like, if we draw untapped white off the top, then maybe I will be willing to sacrifice it next turn. I'll play the Valkyrie plus the Angel this turn. Not sure what they're tanking on here. Decline to sacrifice. Hive. Okay. It's not really what I was hoping for. Because it still prevents us from deploying the Voice. But now that we have the 3rd Valkyrie in play, I think I am willing to trade. Yeah, I guess this is unbeatable for them, as long as we're careful. Okay, cool. So up against Gruul Werewolves. We also, again, as I said in the last match, we have a sideboard guide here by none other than Reed Duke himself. And Reed is telling us to bring in the stuff that we would probably have brought in on our own. Bring in the removal spells. Bring in the removal spell. Bring in the removal spell. Cool. Take out Drana. Take out Pyre. Not really sure why we're taking out the Pyre. I guess it doesn't affect the board and we're trying to stay alive. So I guess that makes some sense. Out comes Oprah. Just 1 copy, though. And out come the 3 copies of Paulo, which makes sense. Yeah, I like this. Yeah, this one, unfortunately, we can't keep. Better. It's probably this and put back one of the veterans, because we just won't have the time to deploy him. We won't have time to deploy 2, at any rate. Pup is okay, but we do have the Vanishing Verse as an answer for the pack leader on 2. Which I think I'm inclined to do. I'd like to play the Cleric and the Veteran on the same turn. Nope, they don't have it. In that case, I will probably play the Cleric. Angel of Unity, however. So that's kind of appealing, right? Because it stuffs the Tenacious Pup. It allows us to pump up the Cleric for when we play it the next turn, making it harder to kill with a fight spell. But I still think I'd like to just play this. That feels like Snakeskin Veil, right? I guess the Lair of the Hydra does hold priority there. But it seems unlikely that they would keep this hand without some sort of protection. Sure, so this is gonna dome us. But hopefully we draw untapped white and we can Vanishing Verse plus Veteran. No. Not to be. So we can Angel of Unity, or we can Vanishing Verse. I feel like if we get our game plan going, this won't be an enormous problem. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think we can take another 4. Let's just get this in play. And I think I want the Valkyrie pumped up. Another hasty threat, we can throw the Angel under the bus. That's not the end of the world. But it seems like the games that we've lost today so far have been because we just can't draw land. Yeah, this is the worst possible scenario, but like we are going to be able to deal with it, assuming we draw land. I think I'm okay throwing this under the bus. Keep our life total high. Decline. We were on the draw, so that comes in. Definitely playing that on white and untapping it. The question is, what do we play? So we can play Lunarch Veteran plus Vanishing Verse. We can play Skyclave Apparition, or we can play Valkyrie. Skyclave Apparition is pretty vulnerable to removal, and the token that they get can get hasted up by the Stormseeker. So I think I like getting this down and holding up Vanishing Verse. I guess they could have Snakeskin Veil, and we kind of suspected that they did on turn 1, so maybe what we're supposed to do here is to kill either the Townraiser Tyrant or the Stormseeker. Well, the Stormseeker can't get through the Cleric on its own. I think I'm down to just Vanishing Verse this now. We can even attack if we want. But I don't think so. Another one, yeah. Okay. It's going to start to hurt. So we're taking 5, 9 here. Down to 4. Just can't draw lands. Like, if we could only draw lands. Now we're like in the uncomfortable position of having to block the Townraiser Tyrant with the Valkyrie. Because otherwise we'll just die. And if they have a fight spell here, then it's over. And shocking that in means bad things for us, I'm pretty sure. Let's see what happens. Another Stormseeker, okay. That hurts. So this will be a 6/6, 6/4. Ugh. So we have to throw the Valkyrie under the bus just so as not to die. Rolling Vortex feels like it can't be good against us. Thinking whether we should Vanishing Verse the Tyrant with this mana, hope to draw untapped white. Yeah, probably right. Oh, it does. I'm sorry. The vortex isn't there because of the ping. It's there because it stopped us from gaining life. Okay, yeah. Should have Vanishing Versed that, most likely. Yeah, because now the Voice of the Blessed doesn't gain us anything when it enters play. Probably should scoop this up then. Not sure what can keep us alive. So Skyclave Apparition's job is going to be... This one we will sacrifice. This one I think we won't, right? We need the mana. Found it. But we are dead on board, I think. Yeah, if this tramples, we're dead. They just pump this up to a big creature and we're dead. Maybe not literally, but I don't see how we come back from that. We live another turn in the best case, but I don't see how we survive from there. Okay. I think all we need to do realistically is draw lands. When we do that against these creature decks, we seem to win. When we don't, we lose. On the play, and again, no land, so we'll mull this. Keep and... Is it the Crossroads? Probably the Hengegate pathway. 1, 2, and then hope to scry on 3 if we don't. If we draw a 3-drop and we put this back, we're going to be really sad. Okay, we'll put this back. And we do have a few turns to draw that 3-drop. More land, so that fixes our mana issues. We'll play this on... Yeah, this will be black. Okay. So that makes things easier, I suppose. We're going to Vanishing Verse that. But we'll make them take a damage off of it first. Rahilda. Okay. So this is kind of tough, right? Because we don't want it to turn to night. This just shuts us down entirely, though. So if we don't draw a spell here, then we're sad. But if we don't draw a spell, then we're probably not winning anyway. And what a spell we drew. Holy crap. Yeah. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay. So if we ripped land there, then we were probably in serious trouble. Instead, we ripped the best possible card off the top. Not bad. Okay. So it's still a fight. This has Menace if we attack with it. Is that better than just playing the Veteran? Probably. I think we take it to him. We want to hold on to this until we have another trigger for it anyway. I guess it does turn this to night. That is a thing. Yeah, maybe I should have played the Lunar Veteran there to keep it from turning to night. Ranger class doesn't seem great against us. You can turn it to day, though. And we are at the magic 27, for whatever that's worth. Um, if somehow they don't do any damage to us here and we draw Righteous Valkyrie off the top, then that's great. Tyrant's going to turn off the Hive. Or, yeah, it's gonna stop us from being able to attack with it anyway. This is going to turn into a bigger and bigger threat, unfortunately. This one, I think, is the one that we block with, because it will go to the graveyard instead of being exiled, and we'll be able to at least cast this next turn. I think I'll decline. Apparition's pretty good. We can't cast both. This feels like Snakeskin Veil, doesn't it? Sure does. That stick there, that feels like Snakeskin Veil. Do we abort? Take the Ranger class instead? I think we do. I'm so sure that this is Snakeskin Veil. Need to draw something. Another Inquisitor Captain, maybe? Feels like Inquisitor Captain is never getting there, but it is if we draw Glasspool Mimic, then we want this around. So I guess we're just throwing this one under the bus. And I think we will sacrifice this, because we can play both of these anyway. Okay. Cleric. Okay. It's better than a random card. Yep. So we'll throw this one away, I think. Take 4 in the air and try to race him a little bit. I don't think this attack is good. And I don't think pumping up Ratilda anymore is good either. It could be that I misplayed this game. If they don't have Snakeskin Veil, then taking the Ranger class with Skyclave Apparition was really bad. It's just I couldn't think of what else it would be. All right, what do you take? I try to take us off black? No, take us off blue. Okay. We're gaining so much life that I think I'm fine taking 2 off of the pathway. They did name this, right? Yeah. So we will not sack. Can't attack. Just kind of in this stalematey spot until we draw Inquisitor Captain, I guess. I was probably supposed to block with this, I guess, so that we would gain life when the Cleric of Lifespawn came into play. This feels like a fight spell, doesn't it? Stop hovering my stuff. Oof. Okay, at least we gained 2 here. Gained 4, even. Ugh. Yeah. Again, I don't think we can block with the Inquisitor Captain. So we're probably just taking 10. Or taking 11. I guess we gain 1 when this dies. Glasspool Mimic or Inquisitor Captain. How likely are we to draw that? 9% plus 7%? We're 16% and have been for the last several turns. We have to decline in case we draw the Glasspool Mimic. Unfortunate draws. I think from here we're hosed. Yeah, now it's even night. Okay, so we take 8, 10, 12, 15. We need to block here and here. We take 4, 7, 9, 11, 12, if they put the counters on right. And we think they have the Snakeskin Veil as well, which would still make that lethal. Yeah, and they've been this conspicuous 1 mana as well. Okay. So we need that crazy Inquisitor Captain run from last time, and we need it to be on the top. In fact, we needed it to be on the top like 3 or 4 turns ago. But this just massively fizzled out, unfortunately. Okay, so block here, we're taking 4, 8, 14. It's too much. Block here. Hope it's good enough. The problem is without any of our enabling creatures, the Inquisitor Captain isn't even going to be enough, right? Because we probably can't hit... We can't really hit enough flyers to block the Tyrant. We definitely sack this, right? Yeah. Yeah, and that's not going to do it. Okay, good game. Obviously, when the opponent draws spells and we don't, we're going to have a pretty hard time winning. This... I still think they have the Snakeskin Veil. I still think they have it. Anyway, good game. On to the next one. Yeah, on the draw, I think this is reasonable. We just need to draw 1 land to unlock the hand. I think it depends on... If we draw lands on turn 1, then we can play the Veteran on turn 1. I think otherwise, we're probably supposed to play the Shipwreck Marsh. Right? Yeah, because it's much more important to play this on 2 than it is to play this on 1, I think. Deathcap Glade. Druid class. Are we up against... Probably not Omnath, because of the black. But definitely some kind of landfall deck. Didn't draw land again, by the way. These two, these two off the top. Oh my god. Yeah, now they get to pump Druid class. Oh boy. They chose not to pump Druid class. That's terrifying. It's probably better to kill Druid class once they've invested some mana in it, right? And it's with only 4 cards in hand, and they chose not to. We're probably supposed to play Paulo here. If they have like Felidar Retreat or something. Yeah, like I didn't want to. It was so clear that they had removal because they didn't pump the Druid class. I didn't want to play the Valkyrie into it. And this kind of forces their hand on that a little bit. I guess I should have attacked first, but if they didn't have anything that I wanted to put the counter on it. Key to the Archive, Gitrog. What do you do? Beginning of combat, if it's untapped, an opponent may sacrifice a creature. If they do, then tap it. Otherwise, it's just a 6/6 for 4. And their lands turn into cantrips, like clues. Okay. It's that or Key to the Archive, right? So Skyclave Apparition deals with the Gitrog monster. I'll take Key. Obviously, whatever they're doing involves big mana. And if I can slow them down from getting from ramping from 5 to 7, then that seems good. What's it called? Storm the Festival seems likely. So hopefully their next turn is like Gitrog Monster and we get to play Skyclave Apparition on it. Jund lands. Okay. And there's, yeah, no reason to sacrifice a creature here, right? Yeah. Glasspool Mimic. Now that I have Glasspool Mimic, I'm much more interested in getting Righteous Valkyrie down, I think. Though, I mean, I guess there's always Skyclave Apparition on the Gitrog monster. They play a Key to the Archive. We Glasspool Mimic the Skyclave Apparition. That also seems pretty good. But if we draw a land, then we get to Inquisitor Captain. I'd rather have the Valkyrie in play for that. All right, I'm going to play the Valkyrie, I think. And I actually think I am going to play this thing. The Glasspool Shore. I'm just going to swing. And the Glasspool Shore will let us play the Inquisitor Captain next turn. Ah. Scoot Swarm with no land. We're not blocking. What do we do? So Scoot Swarm doesn't block any of our stuff in the air. I think we're just going for Inquisitor Captain here. Infernal Grasp on the Valkyrie makes sense. Yeah, and now we'll put this in play. And hopefully they can't kill us. Settle the Wilds. It's going to create another Scoot Swarm. Okay. So how high can we get on life this turn? We gain 4, 5, 6. We can get to 26 by my math. And we're also just attacking them for 7 in the air. Oh no, we can get to 27, right? If we play this first, I think. We'll see. Yeah, we can. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Jund stuff. I suspect that is not in the sideboard guide. I am correct. Okay. So big mana stuff, probably Stroke seems good. Test of Talents, not great. Negate, not great. Valorous Stance, not ideal. Vanishing Verse, not ideal. Skyclave Apparition seems good-ish. It doesn't seem like they can make a lot of use of the tokens from it. Like, just exiling their stuff is the most important thing. Again, I think I don't want Drana. I think we've boarded that out in every single matchup. Maybe we don't want the Strokes. I don't know. It's possible we don't want a sideboard at all. Like, maybe we don't need the Skyclave Apparitions because the Vanishing Verses are better. Maybe we don't want to be holding up mana for Disdainful Stroke. Paulo seems so good against them. We trim an Oprah. So we brought in the 2 Strokes, trimmed an Oprah, and trimmed Drana. That seems fair. Infernal Grasp, like, killing a Scoot Swarm doesn't seem to matter. This thing does not seem super threatening to me. Yeah, we'll try this. It's possible that on the play, I'll want to bring in Valorous Stance to protect my board. This is slow. And we need to draw land. But we are on the draw. Do you have faith, ladies and gentlemen? I can't throw this back. This is like exactly what we want to do. We just need to draw land. That's it. Obviously, our track record with that has not been great today, but that's still not enough to get me to throw it back. I want to multi 5 too. We like that. No land. No land. What are we supposed to play this on? If we draw Cleric of Lifespawn, then we want this on black. If we draw the Voice of the Blessed, we want white. But we have Oprah that we know we're already going to need black, and we're also going to want to put something on blue for this Stroke. I guess that's land. I would have loved untapped land so that we could Paulo whatever their play is going to be. But they're missing land drops as well. We're just going to Paulo here. This is on black, so they can kill him, but against the mana-screwed opponent, I think this is the way to go. Obviously, removal is one of the only things in their hand that makes any sense. This doesn't do much. Until they can hit land. This is the ramp spell. This is like the most threatening thing. We're going to Paulo next turn, so we'll be able to hit this key. I think we take this. Oh, no, shit. They have the Lotus Cobra, so if they have land, they're going to be able to play Key to the Archive. It doesn't matter. We win. Okay, so kind of a crappy last game. This deck has some serious issues drawing mana, but other than that, it performed well when it performed. It felt like there were 2 main fail states for the deck. Let's go back and take a look at it before we call it a day. So there were a couple main fail states for the deck, right? Like there was just stalling out the board and flooding, obviously. It doesn't have much of an engine on its own, right? Like you can get into this stuck board state where you don't have any card draw and you need basically to rip the captain off the top or nothing happens, especially if you're boarding out the pyres. And it obviously failed when you didn't draw land. So drawing too many lands, or losing your board state, or just getting mana screwed. We also didn't get to play against control today. I guess that last match kind of, sort of, maybe counts a little bit, but I was interested to see how it would do against Izzet, and we just didn't run into that, and how it would do against Esper, and we just didn't run into that. And I feel like those matchups are pretty poor. So all told, I mean, who was it that did the power rankings on CFB this week? It was Reed Duke, and he put this at number 10 in the format, the 10th overall deck. That seems about right. I feel like with control being at the top and that matchup being realistically pretty bad, I think that's where this deck belongs. But it does kind of roast the creature matchups, and it offers a little more resistance to control than the black-based control shells like Mono Black and Orzhov, I would think. Because those decks just can't get the fast start that you need to get under them before they discover the formula with Galvanic Iteration. But yeah, that's the deck. Had a lot of fun playing it. It's definitely powerful. I suspect that just based on how Captain is doing in Historic, this card may get a nerf. So if you're thinking about crafting this deck, maybe work on some other deck in the format instead. We know that there's going to be some changes coming to the format in a few weeks anyway. This seems like a candidate to get a slight nerf. But this deck plays it fairly. The nerf would probably be to, like, say the Captain must be played from your hand, or it must be cast from your hand to count. And this deck always does that. It doesn't cheat Captains into play in any other way. So yeah, that's the deck. Leave some feedback on the video below. I really appreciated you guys commenting and subscribing after my last video, the Esper deck that we took to the Arena Open Day 2. And I will see you guys in the next one. Later.